Hello, I'm Doug, and this is the Job Library. You're here to find out how to become a carpenter, so let's get into it. Becoming a carpenter isn't as simple as buying a hammer and applying for a construction job. You need to learn how to measure and cut accurately, read plans, safely use power tools, understand building methods, and most importantly, get enough real-world experience that someone is willing to trust you with. The good news is that there are several ways to get that experience, and one of them can actually pay you while you're learning, which I personally did when I became a carpenter. So in this video, we are breaking down exactly how to become a carpenter, including whether you need trade school, apprenticeships, how to get hired with little or no experience, how long it takes to become skilled, how much carpenters can make, and the biggest pros and cons of the career. And later I'll explain why becoming a carpenter could potentially open the door to something much bigger than simply working for someone else. Let's get started. What does a carpenter actually do? When you hear the word carpenter, you might picture someone building furniture or framing a house. But carpentry is much broader than that. Carpenters construct, install, repair, and modify structures and building components that are commonly made from wood and other materials. Depending on your specialty, you might frame walls and roofs, install doors and windows, build stairs, install cabinets and trim, construct concrete forms, remodel homes, or work on a large commercial construction project. And there are several different directions you can take your career. A rough or framing carpenter generally works on the structural portions of buildings. A finished carpenter focuses more on detailed work such as trim, molding, doors, cabinets, and other visible finished components. Other carpenters specialize in areas such as remodeling, cabinetry, concrete formwork, or commercial construction. That variety is important because two people can both call themselves carpenters while having completely different day-to-day jobs. And as you gain experience, specializing in more advanced work can potentially make your skills more valuable. Basic requirements. What do you actually need to become a carpenter? There isn't one universal path or license that every carpenter in the United States has to obtain. Requirements can depend on your employer, location, and the types of work you're performing. But employers generally want someone who is dependable, capable of learning, comfortable working with tools, and physically able to perform construction work. A high school diploma or GED can also be helpful and may be required for some apprenticeship programs. And don't ignore math. You don't need to be a mathematician, but carpenters regularly work with measurements, fractions, angles, areas, and material calculations. If being asked to measure something to the nearest 16th of an inch sounds intimidating right now, that's something you'll want to practice. You also need to be prepared for physical work. Carpenters can spend long periods standing, kneeling, climbing, carrying materials, and working in uncomfortable positions. Depending on the job, you might also work outside in extremely hot or cold weather. Now you need to decide how you're going to learn carpentry. For me personally, I went around to different construction sites, mainly new home building, new neighborhoods being built, and looked for foremen to talk to, and then they usually sent me to their main office to talk to HR or whoever's in charge there. And I went to about 10 to 12 different companies before somebody finally hired me. I had no experience whatsoever. I had just went in, asked if they were hiring any pre-apprentice, and finally I found one that said yes. They just gave me a short little interview, asked me some questions, and then they drew up some paperwork to start apprenticeship school for the carpentry union, and that was it. I was learning a week, and then on the job site for a week, then learning a week, then back on the job site for a week. In the learning weeks, you're actually still getting paid. So that was a pretty good gig there. Like I said, I had no experience, just went out there and started looking, started asking around. And the best thing is just go to construction sites and start asking them. They'll send you to their office, go to their office and They may deny you, which I got denied 12 times before one said, yeah, I'll take you and send you through apprenticeship school. So that's what they did. But this will be one of the biggest decisions you'll make when entering the trade. Here's something that surprised some people. You don't necessarily have to go to carpentry school before you can start working. There are several routes. The first is attending a trade or technical school. A carpentry program can teach you construction fundamentals in a structured environment. You may learn blueprint reading, framing, construction math, building materials, tool safety, and other fundamental skills. The advantage is that you can develop basic knowledge before walking onto a construction site. The disadvantage is cost, which I told you. I didn't go to school or nothing, no experience. It didn't cost me anything and ended up landing a job. Now, before paying thousands of dollars for training, research the employers and apprenticeship opportunities in your area, because there's another option that can be extremely attractive in an apprenticeship. Apprenticeships combine training with actual paid work, which I told you about. Instead of learning everything in a classroom and then trying to find a job, you're developing your skills while working under experienced tradespeople. Apprenticeships can be available through unions, contractors, trade organizations, and other programs. They generally take several years to complete because you're progressing from beginner level skills toward becoming a more experienced carpenter. But there's also a third route. You can potentially get hired directly into an entry-level construction position. You might start as a carpenter helper, construction laborer, or apprentice and learn while working. Initially, you may spend more time carrying materials, cleaning the job site, organizing tools, and assisting experienced workers than actually building complicated structures. That's normal. You're proving that you can show up on time, follow instructions, work safely, and learn. And once you've proven that, employers may gradually give you more responsibility. Learn the core carpentry skills. No matter which route you choose, you're going to need to develop a core set of skills. One of the biggest is accurate measuring and cutting. You've probably heard the saying, measure twice, cut once. In carpentry, that can literally save money. Cut a board too long and you might be able to fix it. Cut it too short and you may have just turned an expensive piece of material into scrap. You also need to become comfortable using hand and power tools. That can include circular saws, miter saws, drills, nail guns, levels, squares, tape measures, and many other tools. But knowing how to operate a tool isn't enough. You need to know how to operate it safely. Construction sites contain saws, ladders, heavy materials, electrical equipment, vehicles, and other hazards. Taking shortcuts with safety is one of the worst habits you can develop. As your skills improve, you'll begin learning more advanced concepts such as reading construction drawings, laying out walls, framing, understanding building dimensions, installing doors and windows, and solving problems when the plans don't perfectly match what you're seeing in the real world. And that problem-solving ability is one of the things that separate an experienced carpenter from a beginner. Now let's say you don't have any experience. How do you convince someone to hire you? Start by looking for positions such as carpenter helper, construction laborer, carpentry apprentice, framing helper, remodeling helper, or other entry-level construction positions. Don't immediately dismiss a job because the title doesn't say carpenter. Getting into a construction site can be your entry point. That's how I did it. For someone with no experience, one of your biggest selling points is reliability. Construction companies need people who actually show up when they are supposed to. Be on time, be willing to learn, stay off your phone when you're supposed to be working, listen to the experienced people around you, take safety seriously, and don't pretend you know how to do something when you don't. Someone who admits, I've never done that before, can you show me, is much safer than more useful than someone who guesses and creates an expensive or dangerous mistake. As you gain experience, keep track of what you're learning. If you spent months framing walls, installing windows, hanging doors, building decks, or doing finish work, those become skills you can take to your next employer. The more useful skills you develop, the more leverage you'll potentially have when looking for better opportunities. And also, I'll throw this in there. If you're looking to be a carpenter and serious about it, then you should probably go ahead and buy yourself a tape measure, a hammer, a square, some carpenter pencils, and a tool belt. Now consider specializing. Once you understand the basics, you will eventually need to think about what type of carpenter you want to become. You could focus on residential framing. You could move toward commercial construction. You could specialize in finished carpentry, work in remodeling, or get into cabinetry. Or you could develop skills across several areas. There's no universally correct choice. Framing can be physically demanding and fast-paced, while finished carpentry requires extreme attention to detail. Commercial construction can involve completely different projects and working environments than residential construction. Remodeling can require you to become extremely good at problem solving because you're constantly dealing with existing buildings where things may not be perfectly straight, level, or square. Early in your career, getting exposure to several kinds of work can help you discover what you're good at and what you actually enjoy. So how long does it take to become a carpenter? You can potentially get an entry-level construction job relatively quickly, but becoming genuinely skilled at carpentry takes much longer. Formal apprenticeship programs commonly involve several years of training and work experience. And even after completing an apprenticeship, you're going to continue learning. Someone with 6 months of experience may be able to perform certain tasks independently. Someone who has spent years working across different projects may be able to look at a complicated construction problem and know almost immediately how to approach it. That's the difference between experience and unexperience. You can start earning relatively quickly, but mastering carpentry can take years. Let's talk about how much carpenters make. How much money can you make? Your income can vary considerably depending on your location, experience, specialty, industry, overtime, union status, and employer. An entry-level carpenter or helper isn't necessarily going to make what an experienced carpenter earns, but your earnings potential can increase as your skills become more valuable. Experienced carpenters who can work independently, read plans, solve problems, and perform specialized work may have access to better paying opportunities. Geography can also make a major difference. Construction wages in one part of the country can look completely different from wages somewhere else. So instead of looking at one national salary figure and assuming that's what you'll make, search actual carpenter job openings in your area. Look at what employers are paying and, just as importantly, what skills they're asking for. That tells you which skills could potentially increase your value. Now this brings us to something I mentioned at the beginning. Carpentry can potentially lead to more than simply working as a carpenter. After years of experience, some carpenters move into supervisory positions such as foremen or construction superintendents. Others move toward estimating, project management, or other areas of construction. And some eventually start their own businesses. For example, an experienced carpenter might eventually operate a remodeling company, deck building business, finished carpentry company, cabinet business, or general contracting company, depending on licensing requirements in their location. That doesn't mean you should finish your first week on a construction site and immediately start a company. Running a construction business requires much more than being good with tools. You need to understand estimating, scheduling, customers, contracts, insurance, taxes, employees, and applicable licensing and permit requirements. But for someone willing to develop both trade and business skills, carpentry can potentially create several different career paths. Now let's get into pros and cons of carpentry. Before choosing this career, you should understand both sides of it. One major advantage is that you don't necessarily need a 4-year college degree. You can potentially earn money while developing your skills, especially through an apprenticeship or entry-level position. You also get to do tangible work. At the end of the day, you can physically see what you helped build. and your skills can become increasingly valuable as you gain experience. But there are some disadvantages. Carpentry is physical work. Injuries are possible. You may work in uncomfortable weather and environments. Some construction work can be affected by economic conditions and seasonal slowdowns, and become genuinely skilled takes years. If you're looking for an easy job where you sit inside all day, carpentry probably isn't the career for you. Also, if you're scared of heights, this carpentry thing is probably not going to work out for you. But if you enjoy building things, working with your hands, solving problems, and seeing physical results from your work, it's a career worth considering. Now, about the being scared of heights, there are a lot of people that get into carpentry that are scared of heights, but as they push through it, they eventually lose that being scared of heights. So don't let that scare you right away, but it is hard if you can't get rid of that being scared of heights thing. Okay, so if you want to become a carpenter, start by researching apprenticeship programs and entry-level construction jobs in your area. Don't assume you need to spend a lot of money on training before you've researched the alternatives. Get onto a job site, learn from experienced people, become reliable, take safety seriously, and keep adding new skills. Because in the trades, the more problems you can solve and the more work you can do correctly without someone constantly supervising you, the more valuable you become. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more step-by-step career guides.